Okay, Mexican Joe, back. We're going to finish processing these pigs out. They're still in the cooler. It's been about 3 or 4 days. First I want to go over a couple of different things. Meat totes. I don't know how many gallons this one is. It's an LEM. This is a gift somebody gave me one year for my birthday, and it was, I think she got it at Gander Mountain or Academy. I'm not sure which. It's a really good meat tote. You can get some stuff in it, but I remember I priced these, and I want to say these were $12 to $15 a piece. Okay, now if you go to Sam's, you can get the huge. It's like a mess tray that you would pick up dishes and be bussing tables. These are 2 for $12. They're nice and deep. They're bigger than the little white tote, so that's why I like using that one. What we're going to do today is I've already washed these, cleaned them, sterilized them with some bleach water. So what we're going to do is, what I like to do is when we get to doing the processing, I'm going to have the guys, as we're doing it, section off different areas of meat. So I'll have roasts over here, steaks over here, stew meat over here, so on and so forth, stuff for grinding and whatever. So we'll do that. So that's what these are here for. Okay, that covers that. So there's the totes. I got a couple of them. Again, if you get the totes from Sam's, they're 2 for $12. Okay, now the other day, these are the 3 knives that we were using when we processed the game and all that. Okay, so these are fine. These we are probably not going to use too much. I'm going to set those aside. Now, anytime you get ready to work on your meat, what I like to do is I like this little Lansky kit. It's got the serrated edge. It's got the diamond tip. They're not a sponsor, but I just like it. Now what I do is I'll lay it down, and I'll find the edge of my knife, and I always start with the carbide cut first, and I'll just slowly drag that across, making sure I spin at the tip, and I do that until I can feel the rough edge is gone. Once the rough edge is gone, if it was 20 swipes on this one, I'll take 10 to 20 swipes on the ceramic here until that's smooth. So you always want to start with your carbide to get your rough edge off the knife. So there's that one. Okay, now this is a knife I picked up at a little general store type deal. This is a double-edged fillet knife. It's more or less for fish, but I use it. Same thing, I've already done this one. This one took like 3 swipes with the carbide, and then I did 10 with the ceramic. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and use these other 2 knives. I'm not probably going to use this one. I don't like a real pointed knife. It tends to end up stabbing me. I don't like that. But there's that one. We would end up doing the same thing. Here's your standard large butcher knife too. So we're going to work on this, and I'm going to show you a couple other things. So let me finish getting these all sharpened up. I'm going to re-sterilize them before we get started. We're going to sterilize our stainless steel table. That way, in case we get any meat on the table, it'll be sterile. Okay, we're back. We're getting ready to get started. I mentioned that we're talking about grinding up some of it. I wanted to kind of show you this. This is backwood sausage seasoning. This pack right here will do 25 pounds of bratwurst. I'm a big fan of bratwurst. You can do it with venison. I'm not a real big fan of using venison for it. It's a little dry when you use venison. But with pork, you want to throw all the fat in there. It's really simple. It says 25 pounds. You basically just take all of your scraps of all of your pork, cut it up into small pieces so you can fit it through the grinder, throw it in the grinder, grind it up, put it back in the big gray meat tote. Follow the directions on this. It'll be add this and so much water. Mix it up. Make sure it's blended real well. Just kind of pat it down. Cover it with like some saran wrap or something. Put it in the fridge. Let it sit overnight. Pull it out the next day. Mix it up again. Run it back through and run it through your casings. Now these are the casings that I like. I get them at Gander, and they're just LEM casings. Just follow the instructions. You want to pull them out. They're packed in salt, so you want to pull them out, rinse them out real good, kind of let them rehydrate a little more so they get a little more pliable, and you're all set there. Bratwurst, love it. It works out really good. Do make sure you use as much fat and you've saved as much fat as you can from the hogs. So when you're doing your cuts later on of your roasts and all that, take a pile and make a pile of fat just for the sausage, because Wild Hog is very lean. It's leaner than a domestic hog, so you want to make sure you get the fat in there to get that done. So we'll end up with another class here in a little bit on bratwurst and making that, and I'll break out my grinder and all that. We'll get Thomas involved. He loves to help me make sausage. All right, my board's all clean. I just finished cleaning my table. The knives have all been rewashed again, and now they're drying. Just waiting on everybody to get here, and we'll get started. Okay, here we are. We're getting ready to get started. What I've got is I've got my plastic down here. We're going to use this, and again, I've sterilized the table just in case. Now I'm going to start with the easiest cuts right off the bat. What we've got here is this is the pork tenderloins. When you're doing any of these meats, what you want to do is, as you see here, you want to pick it off. That's what I was just doing there. A pork tenderloin is usually only about that long when you see them in the store. So I'm going to cut these in half. We're going to get 4 pork tenderloins out of this. Later on, when you get done, there's a tendon that runs through here. You probably want to cut that out. Now, we're going to do some bratwurst later, so I'm just using this little fillet knife that we talked about earlier. I'm going to try to save some of this fat for that. Yeah, there's a big old chunk right there. But as far as the pork tenderloins, a tenderloin in general, this is a pig, so we're going to deal with this different. I'm just going to cut these in half. This will be 1 pork tenderloin, that'll be another. These are 2 different meals. Now, if this was deer, I would get up under the tendon right there and I would fillet that tendon out. And once I fillet that tendon out, I would roll the meat over and I would cut 2 finger widths, about an inch and a half, all the way down the tenderloin. And what I'm doing there is I'm building fillets, and then I'm going to wrap that in bacon. I'm going to season it. It's going to be awesome. But this here is going to be really simple. They're fine. The tenderloin, here you go. That's it. But you can look at that. That's some really nice tender meat. So the tenderloins are the first 2. They're going to be the simplest. This one's a little bigger. I'm looking here. Right now I'm just scavenging fat for the bratwurst that we're going to do later. See, there's some good fat on that, but I'm going to leave that. Put a little bit here. I don't want to get too into the meat. Now those are some pretty big tenderloins right there. So you can look at those, and that's a pretty good chunk of meat. So there's that. So there's 4 pork tenderloins. Put them in the tray over here. Put the fat off to the side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk over. I'm going to get a rear ham. Now these are your choice roasts. I'm going to play with it a little bit here. I'm going to find out where that joint is. That joint is right in here. Okay, that backbone runs across here. There's a joint right there. What I'm trying to do with my roast is, if I'm going to do venison, it's going to be steaks and roast. But because I'm doing pork, I like a pork roast. Finding that joint, it's right in there. I'm going to use a longer knife, not a fillet knife. Fillet knife is too fragile. And now I've got to find it. I'm going to go in, because it doesn't have to be perfect. Got a piece of hair there, get that out of there. Drop your knife down. Let's find that elbows up in there a little bit. I'm going to follow that cut all the way around. Find out that as you start cutting the meat, you'll see we're back here farther. That knuckle is right up in here. Now I'm in here, there it is. Okay. Right here is the knuckle. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to kind of fillet the meat out off of that bone that's back here. If you cut this, it doesn't matter, because it's going to be in the pot, you're not going to see it. So I'm boning out along the bone here. Trying to get some good angles for you so you can see it. There we go. Now you can see the knuckle right there. So to drop in on that knuckle. And I got Tim here. Tim's really pretty good at this. Just keep playing in there to get that knuckle popped out. And you're getting in between the two different pieces. And there we go. Starting to break loose. Make sure you keep your hands out of there. Oh, there it is. I'm going to bend it a little bit, put a little torque on it. All I'm doing is there's little tendons that are on that knuckle in there. I'm just trying to get those cut out. Right there, you can see the ball of that knuckle. It's right there. Found the piece right there. And that's it. Alright. That right there, I actually should have cut a little farther forward. It's not going to be a big deal. To me, the thing is, I can get that in a crock pot. Pull that hair out of there. I can get in that crock pot. That's a really nice roast. If you wanted to, you could turn around and you can cut across here and get steaks. But you'd have to do one slit down the bone, and then you cut across here with your pork steaks. So there's a roast. Okay. Now this one here, it's got a little bit of backbone in it, but that's a really nice roast. So that's probably a good 3.5 pound roast, maybe a 4. So, and just leave the fat on there. And as you're sitting here, it's really, the hair is really not a big deal. We want to get the big bulks of hair out, but you're going to find a strand here and there. The reason I really try to get the hair out is because people freak out, because this is wild game. All right, so there's 2 roasts. I got them over there in my tray. I'm going to do the next one now. We'll do it again. Alright, I decided on this one. I want to have Tim come in here a little bit and Tim do some to show us kind of how he does it different than I do it. But what I'm doing is, this here is a front shoulder. So I did a rear shoulder or ham, and here's a front. Okay, here's some more of this stuff I'm going to use for the bratwurst. So I'm going to chuck this off here. Feel it. There's a bunch of good fat here. Need that for my bratwurst. Okay. Gotta find out where I'm at. Alright, here's a bone. Alright, now, I got a bone right here. So what I'm going to do is, and I've got my favorite knives for different things. Just straight cut. I'm going to find that bone. Just going to work along that bone. Here's the knuckle. Okay, so I'm going to find that knuckle right there. There it is. Once I found the knuckle, I'm going to back into my blade along that knuckle. I'm going to cut out. One, that makes the knuckle move better. Cut all the way around. As soon as my knife gets on the far side of the bone, cut again. Okay. Now I'm out. I'm going to keep rolling my meat. Now I'm going to easily bone this out to find the knuckle, so I can get a clean cut on the knuckle. Now, some people do different things with this. They don't like to. They want to do something weird. This front shoulder is really a pain in the ass. Now, this is a nice little roast. This is a roast that we give to single mothers and stuff like that. It's a small roast. It's probably a 2-pound roast. That's really nice. That'll go in a crock pot really good. Some people don't have big crock pots. Okay, this one is the pain, because what you'll see is that the bone runs down through here. It's the scapula. It's really wide right back in here. There's a bone that runs right back here, and it's a real high bone. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to fillet down the bone here and go this way, fillet down the bone this way, and go it's so much of a pain in the ass that I don't even deal with it anymore. I just leave it alone. It's a roast. All of this is going to fall off the bone when you put it in the crock pot, so it's not a big deal. Okay? So you can see the pig does not have a lot of fat on it. It's really pretty meat. It's really pretty lean. So that's the front shoulder. With pork, I'm real big on roasts. You do your front shoulder roast. You get 2 pieces out of each one. You're going to get got 2 back ham roasts per side. Again, this is per side. You can get some neck roast. That's usually 1 roast. It's got a lot of neck bone in it. That's really good for soups and stuff. And that's it. Other than that, you're just going to deal with your bratwurst and your stuff you're going to grind up for sausage. While you're doing this, you find anything that looks ugly, like right here, some shot. It looks like it's a little bruised from the shot. You can see how it's kind of purple. You just basically pull that out and just chuck it, okay? You can have a separate bucket just for trash meat. I'll throw it up there out of the way. So there you go. So that's basically what we're going to do there. I'll show you the ribs here in a little bit. We'll get to that, but right now we'll just stop here, and I'm going to get Tim in here, and we're going to kind of let Tim kind of run with it and see how Tim does his. Okay, so I'm going to put this over here, tote. And right now we're going to do this with 1 pig, and then we'll just do the other one faster because we don't have all day. So there you go. All right. Okay, we got Tim here, and Tim's from Utah. He's going to show us a little bit different way that he does it.
I just got to figure out what I'm looking at. I just come in and dissect by the muscle groups.
So you kind of fillet out each muscle group. Okay.
And then you can get all the tendons and the tough shit out of it, so that way your roasts are just all meat.
Okay, so now on my section, I did 2 roasts out of this piece of meat. How many roasts are you going to get out of this piece of meat?
However many muscle groups there are, I've never counted.
Okay. So what we're talking about is you're going to get smaller roasts.
Right.
Okay. So you're just dissecting the muscle groups.
But none of my roasts will have any
of the cross tendon in there.
Right.
Okay.
So you just come through.
How are you feeling following that muscle group?
Well, you can see it.
Yeah, come on around here.
Yes.
You already washed your
Where
hand.
you cut, you can see where. I mean, you can kind of
There you go.
see right here. You can see where there's no. There's
So,
a seam.
These muscles aren't attached.
So you just get in here, you get your fingers in there, and you just get to it, and you work it. You just work down the seams. The whole goal is to not cut into the meat at all.
And this is really nice, when I do stuff, because we have so many people out here, I'll do a 5-pound roast with potatoes, carrots, and all that stuff. Now for people who are just feeding a family of 3 or 4, you're going to want to do a smaller roast. You can do more of the other veggies, make your meat stretch out. So this is kind of neat. And I've done it this way as well. I just tend to feed more people, so I do it as simple as I can.
I don't know if I'm an expert, but this is how I do all mine.
But you don't do pigs so much up there. You're doing deer and elk and
Yeah, they're all the same.
yeah, it's all same basic theory.
Let's get in there and get to it. Bone.
So basically, Tim's theory here is everything Tim is really doing is he's filleting out a cut of meat
Right.
off the bone.
It all comes apart like a puzzle.
And then when he gets done with that section, he'll set it over there in the tray, and then he'll just go to the next section.
Let's go get past that little joint right there.
So for you guys that we brought in for this, we're showing you 2 different ways, and I'm a big fan of 2 different ways.
Yeah.
Mine is fast, simple, large meals. You guys may want to do smaller meals, but
Not really. I mean, like, that might be nice someday, but
right when you get more people over there. But that's the thing is I like to
When I get
show
less people.
I like to show as many different ways of doing things as possible.
right now we're just making big meals for everybody.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of big meals and leftovers.
Yeah.
Everybody's to lunch the next day.
See, leftovers don't really get eaten at my house.
Oh, that shit don't last in my house.
Now see, when we get ready to do the sausage, Tim's dealing with a little bit of tendon over there. The fat we keep, but the tendon we'll discard because the tendon's going to clog up the grinder. But the fat we want to keep. So you got to kind of pick through that. But that'll all just go in the fat pile over there in the tote that you can see behind Tim.
Just come through here and do the same thing again. I'm just
Can you see what he's doing right here?
that first piece.
So he's just following that muscle group. Just follows out the tendon that surrounds it and wraps it.
I don't normally have mine cut up like you do either, where you've got it separated.
Quarter.
Well, I have it in quarter, but just. Oh, I normally just take mine off at the joint, so I have the entire,
The whole leg.
all the way up to the hip. Find that bone.
And these are all freshly sharpened, Tim, so anything that you want to use, they're all there.
Yes, sir. Just cutting this pig. And really, this right here, this piece will just, if you get those tendons right there cut, it'll just peel off right off the bone. You don't even have to cut it. You can. Makes a prettier cut, but that's what you got.
I find that I have to cut them off. You're probably dealing with an elk when you're doing it. You ready to eat, boy? We got some meat. You hungry?
No.
No. Macaroni and cheese.
Hunting kids. Remember our hunting kids? Hunting kids on
See now, see how he's just chasing that bone down?
Mm-hmm.
And when me and Super Dave started doing this stuff, we were doing it like this. But what we would do is, like right here, he's got two different muscle groups. He's got this one, he's got the one on the far side. So we would bone everything out, and then we would separate.
No, this is the one you've been leaving the bones in though here, huh?
Right. Now, in the ones that I did here a minute ago, I left the bones in. Now, bring that down here, Tim. Okay. So that's a pretty good chunk of meat. That's a good pound and a half roast. So that's kind of nice. So for a family of, of 2 or 3, that's kind of nice. And me and Tim were sitting there talking off camera, and he said he does the same thing I do. It's all roast. I think the only difference so far is just
Because even my back straps will be roast. My loins, I'll take those in a big roast and put the whole thing on the grill. And then if I want to cut into steaks, then I'll cut into the steaks as I'm cooking it. And it really makes for, if you just put that whole roast on there, sear one side and sear the other, then you start cutting your thick steaks. It all turns into medium rare steaks.
Right. Well, it's like what is it if you get a what's the cut that everybody gets for Christmas or whatever? It's a prime rib.
Right.
You end up cooking a prime rib.
You want it
and
in
then
a whole roast. You don't want it already cut into steaks.
Right.
So that way, if I leave the whole thing in a roast, it makes processing easier, and it gives me some options.
Right.
Because I can always cut it into steaks before I cook it if I want to.
Right. Now, what we do is when we do ours, we'll do a little more. When we do ours, we'll cut them into like 1.5 inch, 2 inch steaks, wrap them in bacon, put our seasoning on. We'll marinate the meat right off the bat after we cut them into the steaks, and then we'll season them, wrap them in bacon, put a toothpick in them, and we do them as fillets. All right, now you can leave that as one.
So you can leave it as one. You can further dissect it. If you further take it down, then you can get rid of all this shit that's in it.
Which is just tendon and stuff.
Yeah, otherwise you just have a big roast you can throw in the crock pot. Depends on. I'll just leave it that way where that's how you guys like it.
There you go. Okay, so there's that one. Okay, you got a little more to go there.
You start getting into this stuff, and you start just getting into sausage. Once you start getting too far.
Yeah, now right now you're up in the back section. And that's fine. And there's a sausage section down there in the bucket where the fat is. And in a minute, we'll grab the front shoulder and see how Tim does that and how that's different.
My front shoulders, that's easy. I just cut it all apart, throw it in the grinder.
Okay.
I don't make roast out of any of the shoulder.
Okay, out of the front shoulder. Yeah, see,
Yeah,
that's what we were doing there for a while.
It's
And
just
then
so-
we found that we could find the knuckle and separate the front shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
But when we do want sausage meat, that's actually where we go. It's just kind of a pain.
That's my jerky, and my sausage is my shoulders. Or my
Right now,
hamburger.
have you ever tried to make jerky out of hog, and has it ever worked? Because I tried it and it tastes like dog treats.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I tried it. It tastes like dog treats. My dog loves them, but nobody else does. Yeah, venison or elk or whatever would be fine.
This will be your sausage. Nice, that bone.
Fat's right there close. There you go.
Yay.
Yes, sir. Keep getting into that bone right there.
Yeah, and if we could have had you here for the quartering section of it, it would have been nice to see how you do it different than we do it.
Well, you've seen how I do it with the deer I shot that year.
Yeah, I've slept since then.
Well, I did shoot 4 of them, so you saw it 4 times.
Yeah, yeah. Tim came down in a matter of 4 days. He tagged out, and so yeah. So basically, Tim wasn't allowed back for the last 3 years. All right.
So then you just
So
got-
what do you got? We can just bone
yeah,
that. Come
you
in here,
can
boy.
just- You can
Hey,
take this and just
come here. Come
cut all
here.
this out
Come
from
in
your
here.
sausage bucket.
All right, well, go ahead and bone that out. Come around the tripod. Right there. You know how it works? Okay. Yep. And that's all for the sausage buckets. I've already got the stuff for the bratwurst. So I mentioned that earlier, is that we're going to do some bratwurst too. And this is actually, I think, one of the most time-consuming parts is just finding your little nitpick pieces that are for sausage. Try to stay away from the tendon. Just grab your meat pieces, your fat, and keep going.
Oh, okay, so this is up in the hip.
Yep.
So what I would have done when I quarter it is you come along the top of that hip and you'll just come through here, you'll cut it and you'll get down into this joint and you just hit that joint. Find those tendons in that joint. And then you just, eventually you're going to pop that hip bone out of there. It's a lot easier when it's whole. But then that would have been the hind quarter that I would have been working with. I wouldn't have
You wouldn't have the
I
backbone
wouldn't have
attached.
this piece of hip attached to it.
Okay.
And so then it would have been a lot easier getting these muscles all taken apart.
Okay.
So that's pretty much how I would have done it.
Okay. So you got pretty much everything off that one. Couple little meat pieces, and we'll go to the front
Save that
shoulder
for
here in
later.
just a second. Yeah, that's going to the dogs, so that'll be fine over there. And we're good to go. Okay. Go ahead,
So
Pat.
it's not any much different. You guys have already just cut it off right here. I would have had.
Well, now
same.
on the front shoulders that we're dealing with, they don't actually connect. There's nothing but
No,
muscle.
they don't. They connect right here, and it comes down.
Right.
So you've notched it off at the
knuckle.
at the ankle, and we're
At the elbow.
we're gonna bend this shoulder back and do just like you did, and come through here and just dislocate that shoulder off the body, and then you'll just
Now that fat and scrap there goes in the sausage tray.
So there is roasts in this. They're tougher. being
And with
off the
mine,
shoulder.
I go in there and I find the knuckle and I separate them. That's it.
There's a piece of cartilage that comes right through here, and that's where I get my 2 roasts from.
Right.
From this meaty part. But now
But you're
on
gonna,
an elk you can get one back here too.
okay, but you're going to bone this one out for sausage.
But so I just There's no special way I do. If it's gonna be sausage, it's all going in the grinder, so I just cut it in pieces. But for the sake of
There's a T in there, and that's what I
for the
like
sake
to
of
show.
showing that T,
Now, a lot of what he's cutting off here is a lot of that's kind of tendon. It's not necessarily fat, and it'll jam up your grinder in a heartbeat. Put up the bone. There you go.
find it.
I think it's going to be right here.
So you can see you can just rip most of it with your hands.
Again, you're separating the muscle groups. And as you do more and more of these, you'll see what we're talking about. When Tim gets this section done, we're going to grab that scapula back there and we're going to show you what that T looks like, and that's what you're working with. And again, you can turn around and take this little section he's cutting off right there and make a smaller roast. I just cut them into 2, but you can actually get about 4 roasts out of this. It's just not large meat.
There's me one.
Yep.
Then you're off into that T. Starting to. Watch out, dude.
Right there. Here you go. Now you're filleting up that long flat bone.
Find that spot where you can get past that. What, dude?
What about Captain Kids? What about Bill's Kids? What about Phil's Kids?
Should be right about here.
I've gotten into it. Is what
Should
I've
be
done.
right about there. I can feel it right there. And when you cut right down there on that muscle group, you should be able to separate the left and right side.
Daddy? What about Captain Kids?
Just like I was telling you, you know, the more you do this, the more you get used to seeing where the tendons drop in. Find it?
Yep.
There it is.
I think I did.
Now all you do is you go down to the bottom. When you hit that flat plate, just fillet your knife sideways and just fillet across the back end back there, and you're good. And that's where I sometimes use this knife, this fishing fillet knife. It's bladed on both sides, so it's kind of nice.
Into it now. So if you're watching this in the video, just put it in fast forward. See what you want to do. So I'm slow. And on an elk, that's a lot bigger of a roast. On a little pig, it's a little 2-biter.
Yeah, see that was a little. Yeah, that was a little T there. But normally the T on the larger animals comes all the way up here, and
does, it comes-
it's
that's
a
what's
section.
confusing me.
It's a whole piece. Yeah, yeah, that was hard to see. And right here, now what? Let me show you this. And right here, take this knife here. See if I can make it work out.
Yeah, take your fillet knife.
Fillet that out. Now I'm past it. Now I can just Now you come back down the back side.
Yep. You want to hit it right here.
And this is why the front shoulders are such a pain, is because you're either going to, again, make them just whole roast, or like Tim says, turn them into your sausage meat, which on a pig is great. When you're dealing with deer and stuff, it's too lean, so you have to mix it with fat anyway. But it's all about whatever your taste is and whatever you want to do. I mean,
And that's why I do all just hamburger with the shoulders, just because this is too much work.
well, and you can mess up a steak.
Yeah.
You can mess up a steak cut, but it's really hard to mess up sausage.
Exactly, and this is so full of tendons and fat.
Wait.
I mean, off a pig, that's not going to be anything but sausage.
Here, okay, yep, there you go. Okay, show him this. There you go. Okay, now look at this, and then he'll finish boning this out. But you can see, and again, this is a small pig, but you can see the T right here. So that's it. We'll go ahead and finish cutting that up, just getting the meat off of it, and then we'll do some more. Okay, we got a little bit of meat to go here, so we're going to go ahead and go through a couple of wraps. The first thing I do is I always tape my wrap up. Now, because of dust and sterility, I'll pull off a couple feet. That gets trashed. Then I'm dealing with nothing but virgin wrap. Okay, now everybody kind of does it a little different. I pull off about 3 feet, take my knife, cut it, set it back. Okay, now right off the bat, I'm going to go with tenderloin. I'm going to try to fold it, turn it into a ball. Okay, now I'm going to initially roll it up a little bit, get about halfway. Now I'm going to fold it over. I'm trying to push the air out. I'm going to give it one more fold. Now I'm going to fold it into a point. And I already have my tape pre-pulled off. Now here's where it gets tricky, is I have to remember what's in what. So right off the bat, I'm going to do all tenderloin. And then I'm going to do all of whatever else. All roast or whatever. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to push as much air out of this as possible. So give it a roll or two. Fold in, roll, create my point. And with bigger cuts of meat, it's going to take a little more paper. And my second goal here is to try to make this where I can get it inside of 1 gallon freezer bag. So I can get a couple of these in there. That one doesn't want to bend. That's okay, we're working it out. Fold. And I'm sure some butcher is going to tell me that I'm doing this wrong. I've never been to butcher school. I cut myself the old school way. And again, you can see that I'm stacking these back here. These are all tenderloins. Another trick here is that too much paper is better than not enough. There's a lot of paper on that one. That's fine. Point. Fold it over if you have to. Okay. There's tenderloins. Now I'm going to show you a bigger cut. Now the bigger the cut of meat, the more of a problem it is to get it all in the paper. Okay. Stay away from his shorter roast. I'm going to go with my big ones. Alright, that's a big old slab of meat. This is going to be a pain, so what I try to do is keep the meat this way so I can wrap the paper on the side. That's not going to fold all that well. Immediately try to fold up. This is like folding a brick. It's not that easy. Fold under a little bit. This one probably could use a little more paper. But again, these are going to go in a freezer bag. Now this one right here is probably going to go in a single bag. And don't be afraid to use more than one piece of tape. Okay, so that's going to go in one bag. We got a couple more of the big ones. And here's the other half of that big one. Now sometimes I will pull a flag fold. Go this way, go this way. Remember, I got more paper here now. And again, some butchers can tell me I'm doing it wrong. Please correct me. This is not my forte. I can't wrap Christmas presents to save my life. Okay. Trying to go for that end. Fold it all in. I would really probably need to look at the way a butcher does it. Because I've kind of self-taught myself this. Each one of those is going to go in their own bag. Now, since I showed you how ugly big roasts are, let's show you the small ones. The small ones come out really pretty. Okay. Here's one of the small ones. Look at that. 1.5 pound roast maybe. Roll. Fold. Fold. Roll one more time. Get your point. Push the rest of that air out. And that's a pretty little roast. Just keep on moving. Now on the sausage stuff, we are probably not going to wrap that. I'm probably just going to throw that in a bag because I'll get to that later on this week and I'll do the next video where we grind that up. So in the meantime, I'm just going to keep doing roasts. If you get to a point where more people show up to eat than what you expected, all you do is pull another roast out and do 2 roasts and 2 crock pots or whatever, however you're doing it. Fold, point, fold, point, roll that under. And again, I'm going to get this batch done with all these roasts, and then we're going to jump into scaling them and marking them. One animal is really not that hard to do. When you get into, we got 2 here. This is going to take a little longer, plus we're doing the instructional side. So. Now this paper, this big roll of paper, I get it from Sam's. And it's not that expensive. I'll show you here in just a second how I got it set up. Okay, let's see. I've just got it basically hanging by these strings up here, and it's hanging on my rack, so it's real easy to cut. I've got my light in the background. So there's that. We'll get back to rolling a couple more. And then we'll go to the weighing. I got a couple roasts to do. And here's my front shoulder roast with the bone in it. I'm really glad Tim was here because he showed just, I like to see how other people do it. I mean, I may try something different, or you may get it be out somewhere and your normal way is not going to work for you. But the more you know, and the more different ways you know to do the same thing, the better off you are. Okay, I think we're on the last one. Nope. I got one more after this. Pull it over, pull it back, tight. You can see that everything doesn't always work to your advantage. to work with it. What the paper is trying to do is the paper is trying to protect your meat from being freezer burned. I double do everything. So what I do is I will wrap them and then I will put them in the freezer bag. Alright, here's the last little roast. And the rat tape. Alright. Alright. Alright, now just kind of show you what we got here. These are our tenderloins. These are all roast. I can tell when I grab them which ones are bone-in and which ones are just regular roast. We're going to pause right here real quick. And I'm going to bring in some more equipment. I'm going to show you a couple other things and just kind of finish off the process, and then we'll see what we got after that. All right. Okay, I brought my scale in. We're going to weigh this real quick. And the first thing you want to do with the scale is zero it. It's got a little knob up on top that sets you up for zero. So now we're zeroed. Now if you go to measure how much meat you're dealing with in a tote, you want to measure the tote separately, zero it, so you zero out the tote. And then you can measure the meat and you're actually getting just meat weight. Okay, so there's my scale. So I can get it in camera view here, okay? Now what I do is I find out that is a 1 pound pork tenderloin. I just write it right on top of the package. Set it to the side. These are probably all going to be pretty much the same. Nope, that's a 1.5 pound pork
Nice meeting you, man.
tenderloin. Okay, that is a 2 pound
Yeah, I'm sure.
pork
I'll be coming back a couple times.
tenderloin.
I'll be here, I'm not going nowhere.
Something else that I'm forgetting is we are now in May of 14. I need to put the dates on there. May of 14. May of 14. Therefore, when you're doing your rotation, you can rotate your meat out and use the oldest meat first. 1.25 pound pork tender loin, 514. That's those. Now I'm going to start with my smaller roast. So 1.5 pound pork roast and 514. Now I'm going to grab one of the shoulder roasts. That is a 2.75 pound pork shoulder roast, 514. This is a ham. That's a 4.5 pound pork ham roast. You can call them whatever you want. 514. You just call them whatever you want. And what we're going to do is we've kind of got an agreement that they caught the pigs, they trapped the pigs, I'm processing the pigs, so we split it. So it's easy when you know the weights how to split it up, because you know here's a 4.5 for them, here's a 4.5 for me, and so on and so forth, and it pretty much pans out. Okay, let's see. It's a 5.5 pound, and that's a shoulder roast. 5.5 pound pork shoulder roast, 5, 14. All right, well that's it. Other than that, it's pretty much just once you get them all bagged, you section them off by your shoulder roast versus your loins, your ribs, so on and so forth. And then you just bag them up according to who's taking what. So it's the most efficient way you can do it. The wrap was pretty inexpensive. This is just standard masking tape. It's a Sharpie. The scale, it's a guide series. I think I got it at Gander Mountain. I don't remember how much it was. You can look it up and go from there. But that's it. That's how you butcher. It's not hard. The more you do it, the better you get. And there you go. Okay, now we're going to cut the ribs. I'm going to need your help on this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is alright, I'm going to have to grab a knife here. I don't know if we're going to be able to get all this. Let's see. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off just a bunch of this meat. And we'll fish that back out. And we'll use that for the sausage. So I'm not get my fingers in there. That's that one. Alright, drain a second. Close it. Set it on top. Adjust the camera here. Alright. Now we're going to break out the DeWalt. Because this is how we roll. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come as close to the bone here as I can, the backbone. Then I'm going to stop, set the DeWalt down. I'm going to basically just get in here and just cut this out. Cut in here where I can try to get up underneath this bone here. Alright, there's a little bone there. I'm going to cut through this bone. Alright, now I'm going to set that one down right there. Now I'm going to come right in here. I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, now I'm going to hold it up right. Same area. Set the side down behind me. Go ahead. Okay. Now I actually got into the spine a little bit there, which is fine. Now all I got to do is just gotta figure out where all the bone is. Come inside. Cut this meat. Grab the Sawzall. Alright. Alright, that's loose. I'm going to bring this meat over here and get it out of the way. Now the back here and the neck area, we didn't leave a lot there. So I'm just going to continue to bone that out for roast. I'm sorry, not for roast, for sausage. Okay, now what I'm going to have to do here, so I can get right here in camera zone. Alright, come over here and hold these left and right side. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to split these ribs because they're really hard to package if you leave them this big. Stop. Got caught up in there. Now I'm just going to grab the knife. Come around and see. Alright. There's two sections. We'll set these over here. We'll wrap these in a minute. Now what I'll probably do there also, actually let me get a meat tote over here and we'll actually do it. Just so I can show you. Go ahead and grab a rack. What we're going to do is just find the meat,